Hey guys, it's Ross Scotland on the Space Coach Day. It's New Year's Eve 2023, so I thought I would go through my top 10 books of the year. I say top 10, there are a couple of, let's say, double entries where there's been like a two-parter novel and stuff, and I've counted them as one entry. But you'll see as we progress. First of all, at number 10, this list is subjective, by the way. They were all great books, but I just had to put it in somewhat. At 10, Little House on the Prairie. Not this specific edition, but the one I had previously. This is part of the one where I got the 5 books. Excuse me, the 5 books for like a £5 or something. But yes, rereading Little House on the Prairie brought back so many memories of my childhood. Of when I had read it the first time as a kid, because my dad had the Reader's Digest bound volumes, loads of them. I've got them now. And Little House was in there. And obviously there was a TV show, and like I said, it brought back a lot of childhood memories that were very pleasant. And of course there was the shocking racism by the mother in this that I completely forgotten about and isn't shown at all in the TV show. But yes, at number 10, Little House on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Now at number 9 is the first of our double entries, was these. Babes in the Wood and The Crow Road by Mark Stay. I really enjoyed these. Kind of like, you know, Tiffany Aching and Granny Weatherwax and Nanny Ogg from Terry Pratchett's more like child range, you know, like I Shall Wear Midnight and all that sort of stuff. Set in the Second World War, she's starting to come into her powers. There's threats of German invasion along the Kent coastline, and she's trying to get help from the 2 local witches who really don't want her getting mixed up in anything. One was about scarecrows coming to life, and the other's more just about spies. But they were both great. I'd had them for several months before I got around to reading them. Very easy reads, and I believe there's a third one that I'm looking out for that I'll read in due course as well. But yeah, these 2, great stuff. Now, next, I haven't quite finished reading this one. I've got a little bit of it to go. Scarlet by Genevieve Cogman. She's the one who did the Invisible Library series, which I absolutely loved, and was very saddened when it came to an end, although it's more on hiatus than it ended. Basically, this is set during the French Revolution, and she's mixed up with the Scarlet Pimpernel lot, who are trying to rescue aristocrats from France, except most aristocrats are vampires. And so a lot of the revolution's against vampires. And she, Scarlet, happens to look just like, excuse me, the Queen. Excuse me, I've forgotten her name. The Queen of France, Let Them Eat Cake. Oh, I can't believe I've forgotten her name. So she's going to impersonate her, and parade around the city. Marie Antoinette, how could I forget that? While they rescue the Queen, the real Queen, and smuggle her out. It doesn't go according to plan at all. But yes, she's a really likeable character. It's much more in-depth than the Invisible Library series was, how it's written, and all the better for it as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is first of a trilogy, and I will be getting the others in due course. Next, the first of several aviation-related books. Jetliners of the Red Star, all about the Soviet airliners. So from the Tupolev Tu-104 through to like the Ilyushin Il-96 and the Sukhoi Superjet and all that sort of stuff. But it concentrates on the classic. You see here the Ilyushin Il-62. You see on the back there the 154. And there's some things in here I learned I didn't know. There was a 4-engined version of the Tupolev Tu-104. I think they called it the 110. And also that Czech CSA Airlines was in line to get some Tupolev Tu-144s. The supersonic one, and most of the passengers on the Tupolev 144 were Westerners who flew into Moscow specifically to fly on it because they couldn't charge a higher premium price, being the nature of the Soviet economy. So it was dirt cheap to fly a supersonic airliner. So on this handful of flights that it did make, it was mostly Westerners because they couldn't afford to fly on Concorde. They could afford to fly on the the Tupolev Tu-144. Now, what are we up to? So that was 10, 9, 8. Number 7 is this Foundation, which I've reread this year, mostly because I watched both series of the TV show and it was excellent. And I thoroughly recommend that show to you, by the way. So it got me back into my Isaac Asimovs, and I've read the first trilogy that he wrote, and I've got the Robots trilogy. I've read The Naked Son and a couple of others, and I've got the later Foundation books to read as well. And that was great, just getting back into that old school golden ages science fiction. It was absolutely marvellous. And of course, Isaac Asimov, an absolute classic. So what are we up to now? That was 7. So number 6 was this. His Majesty's Airship, all about the R101 and that tragedy. It goes into a lot of depth on the characters and their backgrounds and their motivations and all that sort of stuff, as well as the technical details. Now, when I first presented this to the channel, someone commented that they thought it was a very poorly written book. And maybe for an expert, it might be. For a layman like me who didn't really know anything about this, I found I learned loads that I didn't know before, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But these things are all subjective. So yes, His Majesty's Airship by S.C. Gwynne. It's very odd, completely out of his normal comfort zone of books, where he normally writes about American history and the Civil War. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Absolutely fantastic. So that was number 6. Let's see. I think we're now on to 5. I've lost track of where we're up to now. Next, Firmament of Flame by Drew Williams. This is the follow-on to The Stars Now Unclaimed and A Chain Across the Dawn, which I absolutely loved, where it's set in the galaxy where most technology no longer works. There's the pulse that the main character accidentally set off this kind of radiation that is like just eats electronics and tech and all that sort of stuff, but at different levels on different worlds. So some are almost untouched, others are back to the Stone Age. But in this one, they found a way that it could actually be reversed, but unfortunately it's in the hands of the bad guys, and they are now basically choosing words to cleanse of this tech-eating radiation, as if they will place themselves to their military campaign. So yes, really good. Looking forward to the next one. So let me see. That was number 4. So number 3 is the Interfluke book by Sebastian Schmitz. Yes, absolutely loved this book. Very similar in its presentation inside to the Jetliners of the Red Star. But I mean, fantastic. Learned so much I didn't know before. Like, they operated top level 4s and 154s, but not for the airline, just in the airline colours, but for the Stasi. And their first one wasn't until they got the top level 134s in, I think, the late 60s. But yes, a fantastic book. Absolutely loved it. I've got some great aviation and airline books this year. It's been brilliant. Best year for that for a long time. Now, the number 2 and the number 1, there's barely a hair between them. They're both absolutely fantastic. And they're interchangeable. Either could be in the top spot. But I've decided this year, because she got top spot last year, she'll get second spot this year. Elizabeth Lim, Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk. Absolutely brilliant books. Just as good, if not better, than Six Crimson Cranes and The Dragon's Promise. Basically in this, there's a royal wedding. It's set on the large continent of Alandi rather than the small island of, I think it was Kiata, that the previous ones were set on. There's a royal wedding. A warlord who's been at war with the emperor for many years to come to a peace agreement where his daughter will marry the emperor. But she demands that someone sew her these special dresses. One's got to have the power of the sun, another has to have the power of the moon, and the third has to have the power of the stars. So these are magic dresses. It's almost impossible. But there is one lady who is able to do it. She's got these special magic scissors that basically they do all the work themselves. She holds it and all of a sudden it just does it. But that's just where the trouble begins once she has made these dresses. The emperor's murdered, the warlord takes over, and it's civil war in the country. And of course, there's demons involved as well. Brilliant. Her books are just, and the covers are always so beautiful as well. I absolutely love her writing. She's been an absolute marvellous find this last year. I'd put off reading Six Crimson Cranes for a long time before I finally bought it. And when I did, I kicked myself for not having gotten it straight away. And the same with all of her books. Absolutely love her writing style. Now, number one. These books are absolutely fantastic. Widowlands and Queen High by C.J. Carey. Now, these are set in an alternate Britain in the early 1950s where we didn't go to war with Hitler. Instead, in 1940, we signed an alliance with Hitler. Halifax became Prime Minister, not Churchill. And they never invaded the Soviet Union either. So there was essentially no Second World War. There was just a Nazi occupation of Europe. And the royal family get disappeared, and Edward and Wallace come back, and they are king and queen again. And this one is set in the early 1950s, about 1953, where they're preparing for the royal coronation. But it's not Queen Elizabeth's coronation, it's Edward's coronation. And the reason it's been put off for so long is because once he's crowned, then all the bad Nazi policies against minorities and Jews and all that sort of stuff will come into effect. Previous to this, they've managed to avoid it. I mean, the crown jewels and most of our great art has all been like stolen and taken to Germany. So the crown jewels actually have to come back to the UK to be used in the ceremony and then sent back to Germany. And Hitler is going to come, except they call him the leader. He's coming and he's going to be the main guest of honour. And he wants to like ride in the Golden State Coach and all that sort of stuff. So basically, and the society is completely divided. The women are stratified into multiple different levels, from the very lowest to the highest. And it's fascinating. It's like a mix between 1984 and Fatherland and literary criticism, because the main character in this, she works for one of the ministries and she's rewriting the classics like Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre and all that sort of stuff, and putting a Nazi spin on it about, how would you say it? Women should know their place. Or that, say, Heathcliff was clearly a subhuman because he's darker skinned. All that sort of stuff. It's explained far much better in the book than I could do. And it ends where the main character, who's gotten mixed up with the resistance, is about to kill Hitler by handing him a poisoned copy of, I think it's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But it ends there, and you don't know what happens. You do find out this one that, yes, he dies, he croaks almost immediately in front of everybody, and there's chaos and everything. And of course, the S goes mad looking for anyone who was involved in it. Widowlands, by the way, is the name they give to the ghettos where the useless elder women who aren't married anymore or can't produce kids are just stuck. So it's like ghettos, which is where that comes from. In this one, Wallace is now the sole monarch. She's the queen, and she's desperate to get the hell out of here. She just wants to go back to America. There's the nascent rebellion because it turns out Princess Elizabeth survived. She was basically, the royal family had been kidnapped, and before the others were liquidated, the Nazis had decided, we might need a high-value target in case this whole alliance thing doesn't work out. So Princess Elizabeth is separated from the rest of the family. She is then rescued from that grouping and spirited off to Canada. But all hush-hush, no one knows that she's alive or anything. She has stuck back into the country. And when the time is right, and the time being President Eisenhower's visit to the UK, she'll present herself and there'll be the uprising. And it's just brilliant, it really is. Especially as we sadly lost Her Majesty last year. Seeing her in an action role like that, I mean, you don't really see her apart from at the very end where she the main character is at Windsor Castle, where Wallace is supposed to meet Eisenhower, except she's managed to acquire Hitler's diary to give to Eisenhower. That says about all the bad stuff that had done during the war. And that's basically her golden ticket out of there. She leaves, abdicates, whatever, defects with Eisenhower, and there's a great scene of the presidential jet flying out over Windsor Castle, because Windsor Castle is very close to Heathrow Airport, which is called Rudolf Hess Airport in this. And when that happens, the Royal Standard gets raised above the castle, and the main character, she sees Queen Elizabeth at a window walking past. It's very well done. These two are absolutely brilliant. I would thoroughly recommend them to you. Don't be off-put by these very garish colours. So yes, my favourite books of the year were these two. I didn't get a chance to actually review them properly for you during the course of the year, although I guess I'm kind of giving you a quick précis now. So yes, those were my favourite books of 2023. What does 2024 hold? I don't know. I've still got a load of my Sherlock Holmes books on that shelf over there that I haven't got through, so I'm sure I'll get through those. I'm sure there'll be more airline and aviation related books, more sci-fi, more fantasy, and all that sort of stuff. I'm very excited for what the new year 2024 brings, and I hope you all have a peaceful and a happy new year. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment suggestion for a upcoming topic you'd like to see discussed, or like the video.